Great. Hi, this is Eric Pines on the Business Side of Law podcast, or the Transformational Lawyer. I'm here today with Sheila Murphy of Focus Forward Consulting, and I'm excited very much to have you here today. Welcome.
Great to be here. Thank you.
So I wanted to, first of all, welcome you and just let you know that your interview was spectacular. And I wanted you to tell me a little bit more about the company that you are working in now, if you don't mind just giving us a little information and background.
Okay. So after practicing law for over 30-something years and being in-house and a senior legal executive, I decided to pursue my passion, which is for developing talent and helping people drive businesses forward. And I launched my own company called Focus Forward Consulting, which primarily helps lawyers and law firms drive their business and careers forward.
And what was your background before that led you to that?
After graduating from law school, I had started in a big law firm in New York City and was later recruited by MetLife, when it was a Fortune 50 company. And then I sort of climbed the ranks there to senior vice president in the law department. And so while I was at MetLife, I gained a reputation for developing talent, where most of the people who worked for me really went on to have extremely successful careers, and I loved it. But in addition to that, in around 2008, when the recession hit, I had a lot of friends who were at law firms and were really adversely impacted by what happened. And I started pro bono helping people with their businesses and practices. And I realized I had a real knack for it. And people came to me time and time again about how to have that client focus to really drive a law firm forward.
Okay, so the name ultimately of this podcast is a transformational lawyer. I want to ask you, what is it as far as transformation or transforming a lawyer? It sounds like to me that's exactly what you were doing on your own without being paid to do.
Mm-hmm.
What was it about that inspired you?
I love people being able to reach their potential. And I always tell people that my backstory, which was when I went to law school, I really wanted to be a corporate lawyer who sat in a dingy room and just drilled on documents, because I was a horrible introvert. And when I went to MetLife, when I showed up at the law firm, let me start with that. The first day, the managing partner came in and said, Sheila, we have this great opportunity for you. You're going to be a litigator because we have too many corporate lawyers. And like my heart sunk. I was like, this is not for me. And so I went through my law firm career thinking, while I love the strategic side of litigation, I'm terrified of everything I had to do. And because I was in a smaller litigation department, I actually had to argue motions and do depositions. And it was like the worst thing in the world for me at that point. And then I went in-house and I thought, oh, I can breathe a sigh of relief and I won't ever have to speak. And then I was at a meeting one day when everyone started congratulating one of my peers about a promotion. And this peer wasn't really a great lawyer. But what I realized was he was doing some of the things I wasn't doing. And that did not only impact my career, but it impacted my client, who wasn't getting my advice over his, which I thought was better. And so I realized at that point, I needed to transform who I was in order to have the career and the impact that I wanted to have.
So how did you go about doing that?
I started to figure out what people were doing who were successful, which involved some more self-promotion, talking up more in meetings, sharing my ideas, networking, developing relationships. And, you don't go from 0 to 100 in one day. You sort of got to take steps and strategically change your mindset, as well as some of your behaviors. And by doing that, I was able to have a really terrific career inside the company. And by the time the gentleman left, that peer who was promoted ahead of me, he was reporting to me. So you can sort of change your inner being and transform how you approach your career and your business if you're at an outside firm, and get to that next level.
It's interesting. You sort of said two things that are ringing through my head that are somewhat contradictory, but one leads to the other. Maybe I'm thinking you were saying that basically you can transform yourself and make changes, but you were also saying that you were drawn to something because of something that was essential to you, that you knew about yourself. I'm speaking now specifically when you said that you enjoyed helping people, and that you played to your strengths basically, and it happened naturally. So I'm wondering what your thoughts are as far as when a person wants to transform, I guess, more their business than themselves. Is that what we're saying? And by playing to their
Well,
strengths?
yeah, you want to play these strings. You want to, I mean, and one of the things I tell people when they're thinking about driving, whether it's the business or their career forward, is understand where you are today. What do people say about you that's positive and that they really like, and what are your strengths? And where are they giving you, where are they saying that you could have to do something different? Because you have to know yourself to understand your value. Um, and then you also have to understand what's valued by the people you're serving, whether it's your internal or external clients. And how do you measure those two so you get that magic of driving things forward?
Would that be the unique ability? You know that term?
Yes, the unique ability.
Yeah.
And I believe people have it. I was hired by one law firm to work with 5 women who were in their corporate unit, and they were all in the same city, same office, and everyone, always says, "Oh, they're all the same. We're, every single one of us, we do the same deals, we do this." And by talking to their peers, I was able to figure out what each of them had as a unique strength. One was the person, when a deal was like going down the toilet, that you would bring in and magically could resurrect it. Another woman was really good at numbers and understood deals. The third one was transformative in certain industries where she was really an expert. So each one of them had something unique why people went to them. And you really need to sort of understand your superpowers as well as the things that you might need to enhance to move forward.
So it's funny, that idea of unique ability, I think it's connected to Dan Sullivan. And earlier today, I was listening to a book by Dan Sullivan about who, not how. I don't know if you've seen that book, but it's an amazing book. And it seems a lot of what you're saying and I read this in your interview. You need to figure out what your special abilities, and you need to basically branch out and find those other people who can do the things that you're not necessarily good at, but you need to know what you're not good at, correct?
Oh, and right. And I will tell you, a lot of people who are on my team were much smarter at me at a lot of things. And they made me look good and I made them look good because I appreciated everything that they brought to the table. And that, and I went out of my way to find places where they could thrive. Because we're not all good at everything. We can't be.
So I'm going to change the direction real quick. I'm curious. Fast Forward Consulting is your company, correct?
Focus forward.
Sorry, Focus Forward is your company.
Okay.
And I remember reading you're a certified business coach. What does that mean? Certified by who? And
the ICF, which is the International Federation of Coaching Federation, as well as ACC, which is another coaching group. And they both have, the reason why I think it's important is there are certain tools and skills that a certified coach has that a normal coach who just comes in and doesn't have any training, because coaching is, in my view, is a mixture. And there's pure coaching where you're helping people understand their own strengths so they can move forward. I do a little bit of mix of coaching and consulting where I inform people a little bit about the game, in the game meaning the legal industry and how you move forward. But you have to help people with the mindset, because a lot of times what really gets people stuck is their inability to try something new. And they hear these voices in their head saying, well, if I try this, I'll get judged. If I post on social media, what will people think? If I proclaim that this is my expertise, will people be saying it really isn't? And so it's helping people through those types of where they're stuck with the voices in their head. And a lot of that comes from the coaching technique. So it takes over a year for me to get certified. It is not a once and done. You're tested. They do mock sessions with you to see how you do with people. It's a very serious program.
So I'm curious, in your coaching, do you use any particular process? Like, I'll just speak about my firm. I have a firm. We have 21 employees. My partner and I, we like to use tool. Right now we're doing EOS, if you know EOS, and I've read eMyth, and there's all these different methods of growth and change out there. Is there anyone in particular that you focus on, or that you like better than other? Do you use any of them?
I I like I like the idea of using, and I don't know if this is falls in which one. One of the things I was taught to do is work with powerful questions as well as some visioning. And the visioning is having people view something through a different lens. So if you hate business development, for example, how would it be if business development was like surfing, if you love surfing? What would that feel like? What would you do differently? And because now and then we get stuck in that one side of our brain. So I'd like to have people sort of open up if something could be different. What would it be like, and what would you do differently? And it frees people from the rut thinking that they can have.
Interesting. Okay. So I wanted to tap into something that you talked about. I obviously being a male, it's not as relevant to me, but being a discrimination lawyer, it is very relevant to me. It seems like you have a real passion for helping women in the legal profession. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I mean, it became evident to me. I joined the National Association of Women Lawyers many, many years ago, and I just was a member of its board, and I just rolled off. But they have done surveys over the last 10, 15 years that show that there really has not been growth despite women being equal in numbers in the legal profession. The growth has not at the most highest levels of the legal profession. We're not seeing the number of women grow. And more importantly, from my mindset, and this is from I think an executive recruiter did a survey, is the compensation when they get to those levels is different. It could be the difference between $100,000 to $250,000 a year in compensation, which is dramatic. So I am really passionate about helping women understand the legal field too, and a lot of it is, I believe, unconscious bias of things that happen is that people tend to sponsor and mentor people who look like them in the past. And so sometimes women did not get the same opportunities. There's also research on mentoring and stuff that is different. How women are mentored is different than men.
Interesting. Okay. So I want to read a quote from something you said. I loved it, and I want you to flesh it out a little bit more. You said, in my view, unless you have a significant finance background, this is a function you should outsource or delegate. You need someone with the expertise to read the numbers, the trends, and their significance. It's something we struggle with all the time here. We're trying to get our KPIs together, to, our key performance indicators, just trying to figure out if, we hire people, are they making us money? Can you flesh that out a little bit more? What type of people you're talking about?
I mean, you don't have to have your own internal CFO, but there are external CFOs that you can buy, or fractional CFOs. And having someone who is not a member of the firm looking at the numbers, who understands numbers and does this for a living. And lawyers fall into this trap. You hire a marketing person, but you know better than them what the marketing should look like. You hire this person, and you really need someone when it comes to numbers and metrics and trends who's looking at it. And also because now and then when it's ourselves, we tend to come in with our own views and we have our own rationale. And having an expert who you value look at it and help you interpret the data and understand what's going on a deeper level will allow you to do much more significant strategic planning going forward. And you may need to, do some shifts in your markets, in your marketing, your hiring. Where are you spending your time? What are the clients you should be trying to bring more of in? And a really good fractional CFO can do that for a smaller firm, or if you're a larger firm, you may want to bring someone in full time, but you also have to empower that person so that they feel that they're engaged in what they say is valuable.
How does a person find, let's say, and I'm curious what you mean by larger and small. We have 20 employees. Where would you put that in? The smaller, medium?
I mean, yeah, I say that's a small to medium sized firm, but I think you want to look at what would it cost you to get a full time person in, to the firm. Are you getting enough value to justify it? Or there are, like I said, fractional CFOs out there who will, they work with 10, 20 firms. And maybe it's not just, law firms. They may also be working with accounting or other professional services firm where you don't have to pay their full freight and their benefits and stuff, but you get you get them in, for some sort of hours, or you figure out what type of package makes sense for you. And that can be more economical.
Would you want someone who specifically works with lawyers, or that's not necessary?
I would say professional services would be helpful. Lawyers, I always think hiring someone who has a background in what you're doing and understands your industry is a value add. So that would be where I'd probably go to first. But if they do law and maybe accounting, that's not, too far off. I know now and then we think of it as very different. I think law and like real estate companies are very different models, but someone professional services I think could work,
Okay.
but if you can get one who specializes in lawyers, that would be excellent.
And how do you find them? Google?
Google
Yeah.
and recommendations. Find out what, talk to other people if they're doing it, what are their experiences been.
Okay.
And ask people about, and interview them like you'd interview anyone else, because their client, they're understand who their clientele is. Ask for recommendations. These are investments, so you want to make sure that you're getting, really high quality people that are going to give you the advice that you need.
Okay, great. All right. So I always like to end my interviews with going very big picture. I try to look at the big picture and vision. Just, I guess that's my unique ability. So I want to know, in your life, if you could name one or two books that has made a difference, that you would want other people to read so it could make a difference in their life, or any mentors or someone to that regard, a person that made a difference in your life.
Okay. I think it's called, the book's called The Edge by Allison Levine. And she was one of the women who was on the first US team to attempt to climb Mount Everest. And she wrote The Edge, which is a fabulous book about that experience, but it's all about leadership lessons in this, very captivating story. And her leadership lessons are so spot on that it has made a tremendous impact, to me. Things like sometimes you have to go backwards to go forwards, and about the team and how do you put together the right teams. And it really just has impacted me greatly. And I recommend it to everyone in terms of my favorite leadership book.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Strikes me as something that would make a good movie.
It's funny. She just did a documentary on the women who help people climb. There are a few women who were, I forget the term, not poor, that were guides. And it's probably, I know that's the wrong term, that help, and they just have never gotten the credit of the males. And she just did a documentary that is coming out now, and it looks great.
I'm going to Google it. Yeah, Sherpas, right? Is that what they call them? The
Sherpas, yes. And there were a few women, and it is interesting how they were treated, and she's trying to get their place in history.
Oh, wow. Well, it's been amazing. This is Sheila Murphy of Focus Forward. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. I really have learned a lot, and I hope our listeners have as well. Thank you so much.
Happy to do this. It was great to speak with you.
Take care.